What a weekend at rugby. Everything went our way. Mostly. Springboks won. Baby Boks won. Back-to-back champions. The Currie Cup is back. It was Mandela weekend, and we've got a lot to celebrate. Let's get stuck in. Welcome back to Bit of an Animal, the South African Rugby Union podcast here on the Global Gainline's YouTube channel and its own YouTube channel, which we've also launched. So like and subscribe to both. On the panel this evening is Kosi,
How's it?
Lisa B,
Flippin lekker om hier te wees.
and John.
Greetings, Earthlings.
First topic, ladies and gentlemen. Springboks brush aside Wales in a party atmosphere in Durban. But I was incredibly encouraged and enjoyed the game. Not just because we didn't put triple digits on them. We actually beat them by a lower score than we beat them end of last year in Wales, in Cardiff, Cymru, if you will. But I really enjoyed the game because there was a lot of debutants, two younger debutants in Wusi Moyo and Yaku Williams, who happened to also play for my Sharks in Durban. And then also some slightly older debutants, but still seasoned players in Carlos Sadi and Ruben van Heerden, also Ruben van Heerden, former Shark as well. Temi Kosi, did you enjoy this game as much as the rest of us?
I
I think
did.
Temi Kosi.
However, I would have to mention that for a game that we won, uh, well, I'm not sure if they can hear me now, but
Oh yeah,
yeah,
we can.
I'll say for a game that we won, yeah, for a game that we won, it was pretty interesting. I think the only thing I can be nitpicky about, since let me start with the nitpicking, is we made a lot of mistakes. There was a lot of knockouts. There was a lot of disconnect, even though we still won at the end of the game, but there was a lot of disconnect from my liking, especially because my performance, which I'm judging it from a point of we're playing New Zealand in a couple of weeks' time. We can't be making the same errors. If we play how we play, I mean, we're probably still going to win, but if we play like this, bigger teams will punish, like Scotland did last week. But overall, I think we had a pretty good game. I'm just good. Also, the debutants, Wusumoya was amazing. His kick game was nice. There was this other little clip where I think they kicked him the ball. He had to stop it from going out. He came back, he did a little step and then passed. It showed composure. Like for a person that was playing for the first time, and well, it's not his first time, but for a person that was playing for the first time and playing 10 for the Springboks, I liked his composure. I'm also going to go on Yaku Williams. I mean, he was involved in all four tries. If you look at it nicely, he got two assists and two tries. For a debut, that's amazing. Like, who does that? That's soccer level type of things. So yeah, I was really excited with the game. Carlos Saad, you saw what Wales, the scrum did to Wales, so I take that as a good performance. The line out was also good. I can't really say any bad things about it. Okay, I can. There's a lot of things that I was really worried about, like
Mhm.
Fassi. Like, I'm not sure. Is he coming back the right? Are we taking Damien Williams as our 15 going forward? I'm not sure because he didn't really impact the game as much as I would have wanted him to do. But overall, it was a pretty good game. I can't complain. Yes, we beat Wales with a maybe Wales have gotten better. Let me say that Wales have gotten better. They've got it what 30 points better than last year.
Yeah, I am a big fan of Apele Fassi. I obviously saw him make his debut for the Sharks. Interesting enough, in that debut for the Sharks, in the tournament that replaced sort of the Vodacom Cup, it was the DSTV Challenge. He actually made a clearance off our own line. It was against the Leopards in Potchefstroom. He made a clearance off the Sharks line with his back to the opponent. So instead of turning around and kick it, he decided to kick it over his, and it did. I think it did fine touch, or it did make a good clearance. But I concur with you. As much as I'm a fan of his, I felt like last week and this week was slightly lower standards than we might have hoped. In terms of like when we rotate and there's less cohesion, I'm a little less critical of that because I understand that, okay, it's not the entire first team, so there's going to be a bit of thing. But when individuals don't quite perform to the level that we know they can, I will sort of point it out. That having been said, there were some nice moments from Fassi as well, especially linking up with Vusimoyo. And obviously for me as a Shark supporter, I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. And then I remember that Apelele Fassi is going for a full sabbatical next year. He won't. Sometimes South African players will go to Japan for like a half season sabbatical. So they'll play like maybe 5 URC games and then they'll head off to Japan. But Apelele Fassi is going for an entire sabbatical. So he won't be with us for URC or Challenge Cup at all next season. And so I'm going not be able to see that link up between Vusimoyo and Apelele Fassi. However, we do also have Sekatilo Siyaya to then, but then it's a very young 10-15 combo. So I completely concur with your assessment there, Themikusi. And thanks actually, because I tend not to look at because of the limited time I have, I didn't look at all the stats that I want to, and I wasn't actually aware that Jaco Williams was that involved for a 20-year-old. And obviously, we're going to talk about the Baby Boks winning another Junior World Cup later on, and it's worth noting that Vusimoyo and Jaco Williams were in that team that won the Junior World Cup last year, and a year later they're making their Springbok debut, as the Australians like to mention. Lisaby, it's nice to see you back on the screen. How was the braai during and before this game?
Not a lot of braaiing. It was cold, so I just had a fire inside, but it was good. It was really good. Yeah, I have my first question is to Mr. Andrew Brace. What does PT have to do to actually score a try? I felt so sorry for him. How many times he actually got over the line and every time called back. So, but I thought in terms of captaincy and kind of his presence on the field, he is more of that captain's role, which was nice to see from him. I know he's kind of a quiet guy and leads by his actions and stuff, but I feel like he's really slotted into in a good way in the captaincy role. So that was great for me. And then second one, Kobus Reinach, like how good was he and how, oh man. Also, I realized today that he scored his 100th point for the Springboks in that game. 100th, yeah. Um, and so yeah, he was so good while he was on. Very nice to see that like you guys have said, the young guys coming through. Um, but yeah, just a great game. The third thing I'm going to say is I hear, I've seen a lot of people complain, which is kind of weird if you think about it. We still won by quite a margin. Um, but in my opinion, or what I've been thinking about a lot is all through these three tests really, Rassi has chosen the team that could just win. I'm getting the feeling. So it's not so much about, picking and he even said it beforehand that he is willing to lose some of these tests. And I think people need to remember that this is what he's doing. He's choosing teams that can win, but aren't guaranteed a win. And I think that's very, very important going into the greatest rivalry tour and for next year, um, to really put players under pressure. And I really get the sense that they want to see what those players do under pressure, and they won't be under that pressure in a full strength team.
Yeah.
So just, yeah.
I mean, the contrast between Rassi and Andy Farrell, yes, I think Andy Farrell's a good coach, but like, dude, are you just playing the same players every week and only rotating when somebody gets hurt? Like, what happens? Like, there needs to be a succession plan. There needs to be like slowly blooding these guys in, not just like, oh shit, you got like a bunch of injuries and now you just have to play against France, that type of thing. Play like blood the guys in against Wales and here and there. So I appreciate that entirely, Elizabeth. Thank you for bringing that up. Jean, I think the whole team played really well, considering like the rotation. I appreciate the amount of players we picked. I will also say though that when Mari Libok and Damon Van Litzer came on for their very short cameos towards the end, you could see like these guys were like just a step above. Not to say everybody's bad, everybody's like good, but these guys are just like peak Springbok.
Yeah, look, I I think everyone needs to understand where we are, and I think Rassi did his best to explain where his plan was, um, in terms of and what his intention was with these matches. People are getting caught up on the fact that we beat Wales 73-0 and now we only beat them 43-0. It's a stark difference playing at the Principality with the roof closed and a bunch of fans where the air is nice and dry. There's no humidity, there's your sweat is evaporating, versus playing Durban where it's 60% humidity in the winter. It's 20 plus degrees. Um, everyone's sweating through their shirts. Your hands are damp. Your hair is damp. Everything's damp. It's wet all the time. And it's not even raining. That's the worst part. So I think first of all, let's appreciate where we are. If we wind the clock back here about 4 years, around about this time, we were playing Wales. Again, we lost in Bloemfontein. Very young, very experimental team. We had Damian Willemse at 10, who had a clutch kick in the first test, actually, to seal it for us. We lost the second test. We won the third test. Later that same year, we lost to Ireland and France on a northern tour. Um, so I would caution fans, to get a little drunk on our achievements and say, look, we still doing the right things. We're blooding players. We're playing experimentally. The difference is just this time the score's in our favor. Previously, it wasn't. And yes, Rassi has been exceptionally bold. I think the one thing that more than any other coach, Rassi is willing to do is to say, we need three guys in every position. We need three guys that we can rely on, maybe even a fourth. And he rightfully pointed out in 2011, look what happened to the All Blacks. Lost starting fly half, second fly half, third fly half. You're calling a guy off a fishing trip. You'll be happy if he gets sober by the time he gets to the field. So, I mean, it's it's there's a plan behind this. And I think we need to embrace that plan and realize that, it's for Rassi, every test is the next thing. Um, that said, we now know, and I think again he put it very eloquently, everyone can stand up to the pressure. Some guys need more time, some guys are ready now. I think one guy who definitely proved he's ready now, Paul de Villiers. That guy was playing out of his skin. As nice as it was to see um, Kobus Reinach back and Vusi Moyo, who I think handled himself pretty well for a first time on the field. Um, Paul de Villiers over the past three tests has just said it's just another day at the office. He's been carrying, he's been getting turnovers, he's been solid. He's never done one thing egregiously wrong. Unlike some of his Stormers cohorts, he doesn't give away cards, which is very nice. I know that's a culture thing in the Stormers to get at least a card a game. Um, so yeah, I think Rassi's managed the Nations Championship well. And then just the last thing, like people are very critical of the Springboks' performance over the last two games. And there's two major things that I think no one's speaking about enough. Give Scotland their dues. Scotland is a team who ran France, arguably the only team who can say next to South Africa, we've got depth for days, right? Who ran them to the last minute, scoring 6 tries in Paris. That is something that is not easily done. We were celebrating like crazy when we did that last year. So give Scotland their due for rightfully exposing a gap in our defenses and playing to it. If they had been able to catch a ball, they might have scored more tries. But thankfully for us, the only thing the Scots can catch is the South African who hasn't played for the Springboks yet. And then secondly, it's just the knock-ons in Durban, guys. Yes, it feels like it's an unclean team, but honestly, it's very easy to sit on the couch and say, oh, I could catch that. I mean, let's go down. Let's see.
Hmm.
No.
Yeah, the
Um,
conditions are a massive factor. Yeah, Paul de Villiers, like that open side section, thankfully, Siya Kolisi can play sort of across the back three, eight, and blind side, or maybe off the bench for Paul de Villiers. And it's envious. The weird thing is that Paul de Villiers had a very good season for the Stormers this season, but over the last four games for the Springboks, he's even jumped a level So that's incredibly encouraging. It's also encouraging for the Stormers because they can have that combo at URC and Champions Cup level with the Siya Kolisi, Paul de Villiers combo, either off the bench or alongside one another. And then shout out to Herschel Jantje, scored a try off the bench after not being picked for years. Um, I think he looked pretty sharp. I don't know if it's because we haven't seen him in a while, but I think maybe he did regress somewhat in his time at the Stormers, and then the change to Bayonne. And I've seen him play for Bayonne. He played reasonably well, but he played well off the bench and the thing. So it's like when you surround somebody with the right environment. And to be fair, I've spoken to some rugby coaches, and they said that it's like when you get the new guy and he's really talent, like Sekete Rusiaya, like Vusi Moyo, younger guys. Hopefully, we'll see Hashim Pede in the system soon enough. Um, uh, you want to sort of surround them by 80% senior guys who are just like, hey, we're here to support you. And I don't know who was it last week on the pod that said, yeah, look, you want Vusi to be surrounded by Reinach in front of him and Damien Del Andy on the other side, because that just gives you like a sense of like security. And then if you have a poor game and you get taken off for Libok, it's just like, hey, man, we're not going to throw you away. We're not going to like cast you aside now and take you out the team entirely. Even if someone might say, oh, but it's just Wales and it's in South Africa, we have to like bring people along, and people develop at different levels. So that's incredibly encouraging. And for everybody who like watching this today, if the screen in front of you or on the podcast seems familiar to you, we purposefully curated this week's panel because this is actually the first full Pod Squad panel that we've ever had. So this podcast started on the 24th of July, 2025. With just myself and Jean in our respective bat cave type thing. Somehow both of us were in the bat cave. I thought Batman only had one bat cave. When you go back to the first episode of Bit of an Animal, even I think like, oh, Mohammed's got horrible lighting. What the hell? But we've come a long way. And then thankfully two episodes later, Temi Kosi joined us, which was awesome. And then not too long after, Elisa B joined us. So today's episode is the 50th episode of Bit of an Animal. So we're commemorating it by, first of all, thanking everybody who liked, subscribed, and was with us on this journey, including my hiking friend, Seamus McGuigan, who was the very first comment on our very first episode. Shout out to you, Seamus. Seamus, famous Ulster fan. I think he knows Liam Neeson. Everybody knows Liam Neeson from Northern Ireland, right? Also asked Seamus one day how he ended up in South Africa. And yeah, so it was the four of us, and then so we the 50th episode, but we do have some shout outs to the people who weren't booked for the episode today. So our other regular panelists in order of appearance would be Sibu Siso, who joined us, Paul, Bryce is very often on, and then most recently powerlifter Bandile, fellow Shark supporter, and that's why I really appreciate him. And then special guests were our first special guest was Jan de Koning from Rugby 365, without doubt, the premier rugby journalist in South Africa. His colleague, Angus Opperman, also Rugby 365, world famous, and he might be saying this like viral sensation, Wesley Rugby Krantz. Like this dude exploded overnight, and he deserves it. Then we also had Adam Latham. Actually, Adam showed up on the pod before Krantz, so apologies, Adam. I messed up the order there. Ulster Irish supporting Adam, David Cordial, Leinster supporter, Jacob Bashford, the guy who joined us for the South Africa versus England preview, who's also going to be on the Global Gainline for the English Gallagher English Prem podcast soon enough. Also check out Jacob's Leinster Women's Rugby pod. Excellent pod. Scottish Ethan, he was on the pod for the previews for Boks versus Scotland. And then Walsh Hattie, who most recently was on the preview pod, by the way, sponsored by Culture Lab Kombucha. So shout out to them. Shout out to Jason, the master brewder there in Muizenberg. Amy and Jacques, the founders of that establishment. And obviously Liesel Hendricks, who was booked twice, twice, and then she canceled. Oh God, Lisa, you remind me of an ex-girlfriend. Yeah, and then also thanks to Lee, super producer Lee, who edits most of these pods. Hugh Griffin, check out his YouTube channel. Who does the thumbnails. Oh, by the way, in the thumbnail this week, it's Nelson Mandela. We'll get to our Mandela Day section of the pod later, and then Zach, who also does some edits as well. Zach, we won't hold it against you that you're a Osprey supporter, although I doubt Ethan Hooker's dad's gonna want to see you in a bar in South Africa anytime soon. Anyhow, topic number two, ladies and gentlemen, we went to the Junior Rugby World Cup and we won it again. Um, yeah, we'll go with Sean this time first. Um, I'm stoked, Sean, but it wasn't an easy game against France. I wasn't able to watch it live, but shout out to Sibusiso who was keeping all of us updated on WhatsApp. Um, yeah, back to back.
Yeah, look,
I'm liking it.
I'm very proud of the Junior Boks. I think it's they're one of three teams to have now pulled it off in history or in the history of the Junior World Champs. So and they look, it's the second team, you could say, because it's pretty much majority the same team as last year. So it's only the second team in SA history that's done it. The previous one being stacked with guys like Kitsoff, Pollard, Kriel, all
Intercept the
the
toy.
names we know now.
Mm, mm.
So yeah, look, it wasn't a tough match, and I think one good thing was that we had that England game, and we had the TRC, the junior TRC before this, where not everything was a pushover, not everything went our way. Those were important games, and I think it really set the tone for the guys to get into a mentality. But man, the French under 20s just, like, in the 70th minute, I was still feeling like these guys are just going to score out of nowhere. Any second now, Ramos baby or Intermac baby will just pop out and be like, Le bullshit, I score. So yeah, no, kudos to them. They played extremely well. They fronted up to the physicality amazingly. Um, and again with the French, if your kicking game is a percentage point off, you're suffering. They nullified a lot of the baby box kicking so well, just through positioning and because it's a natural thing for them. So kudos to the French for really putting up a tight fight. I think up to the 76th, 78th minute, they were fighting like they still had a chance. And then yeah, the box just stayed cool. But I just want to give a shout out to Mr. Flippin Mbelele. Yeah, Mbelele. Because he gave a flippin' good interview after a flippin' good match. And man, was that flippin' good to watch that flippin' good interview.
Oh, I think we're gonna make that the title of the podcast, Flippin' Good Weekend. Um, yeah, so the stats are so New Zealand won the first of the when this tournament started under a different name, but it was always the under I think at one point it was under 21 World Cup, but yeah, neither or. So New Zealand won the first four. So New Zealand have won four in a row, and then they lost one. France won three in a row at one point during its existence. England have gone back to back, so we're the fourth team to do anything back to back or longer. And like I said on the group chat, so New Zealand have won it six times in total. We've won it three times in total. England have won it four times in total, and France have won it three times in total. No other team has won the tournament. No Wales, no Ireland, etc. We'll get there eventually. Although I will say, in fairness, Wales did have a competitive team not too long ago because I watched this tournament quite closely. I was fortunate to be there to watch South Africa win it for the first time with Andre Pollard starting, with Stephen Kitsoff there, with Peter Steph Toy playing at lock, with Jan Serfontein at inside center. I'll actually look up the team and see who else. Not everybody from that team went on to be world class. Some of them sort of played here and there. Some of them sort of left rugby, but they're all champions in our eyes. And some of them obviously retired now because Peter, Jan Serfontein and Kitsoff had to retire because of neck injury. Kitsoff probably wouldn't have been retired at this point if it wasn't for that neck injury. Your thoughts, Lisa B?
Yeah, my goodness. If somebody didn't watch this game and they're just looking at the score line, they would be
Mm.
forgiven for thinking it was a boring game. It wasn't, because of course there were all of those tries that were chalked off. And also, like Jean said, the French were so good. Like, and I think, you know, when you hear rugby chat, obviously the Springboks depth is always talked about, but I think the French are really matching us. And it's good to see. And of course, they just have oodles of t talent too. So really big ups to the French team. And for the Baby Boks, what impressed me most, apart from their mad skills, is their mental fortitude. I think throughout this whole tournament, and you could see it in the TRC, and also just how they went into that international series that we had here against Chile and what was it, Georgia and Fiji.
Fiji. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You could just see how they play together and how they really are so dialed into each other, but also how well mentally prepared they are. And it's really something very special. I think the coaching staff have something very special going there, and it's just nice to see that finally, there's the link between our school system and the seniors. And that's just wonderful to see. So yeah, a wonderful game. I watched the senior game finish, obviously, and then was kind of happy about the rainstorm they had in Georgia, which meant that I could watch most of the game. Very, very cool.
Yeah, very how the weather worked in our favor. It's kind of sad though that they didn't realize, hey, it clashes with the senior game. Why don't we just purposefully delay it? But then the sort of rain sort of somehow helped us out. But just
Thor
a quick,
stepped in.
yeah, exactly. Like someone prayed. I think it was Sipasiso. I think Sipasiso was like, because he's obviously big into Sipasiso watches like Grand Como and Craven Week games. Just a quick note for that the team that actually first won it for us in 2012, which I was fortunate to watch that win, Franco Mare, Sharks hooker, but currently at the Lions. Alan Dell went on to play for just I'm not going to go through the whole team, but just the notable names. Alan Dell actually went on to play for Scotland. Ollie Kibble, another guy, went on to play for Scotland. Obviously, previously mentioned Stephen Kitsoff, Rowan Botha, very prominent lock. I think he played for the Sharks. That's an two-time World Player of the Year. Peter Steph Toy, Mervyn Orie, Springbok, World Cup winning Springbok. Paul Willemse went to get to play for France. There's a theme here. Kaya Majola was actually the Currie Cup coach for the Sharks, if that's the right Majola. I do believe that's correct. If I'm incorrect, let me know in the comments. Dylan Leitz, currently playing for uh, La Rochelle in France. Also a guy who got quite a few Springbok caps in his own right. Paul Jordan. I think Paul Jordan's retired now. He's like a fitness model. I saw his Instagram the other day. It's like, dude, Paul, like a lot of people let themselves go after rugby. And Paul went the other direction. Paul's like Fernando Torres. Timikosi will know this. Paul's like Fernando Torres looks even better shape now than what he did when he was actually playing. William Small-Smith, Jan Serfontein retired. We mentioned him before. Shout out to him. He just retired recently. Travis Ishmael, and then obviously another famous Springbok, but born in Ghana, Raymond Roule. I believe he's still in France. He left La Rochelle, so that's a interesting team. Timikosi, encouraging for you. There's a lot of Lions players in this team, and you've got a lot of good senior loose forwards in their like mid-20s in your team already. And yet, like most of the loose forwards in this Baby Bok team are contracted to you and Joburg.
Like we said, it is the South African Academy after all. But yeah, no, I think they played really well. Like most of us, I only watched the second half of this game because I was watching the senior game. But like Lisa B, shout out to the rain. You did us wonders. I'm not sure if Mandela was doing something there since it was his day, making sure that we can watch. But hey, you never know. But yeah, for me, I think the changing point of the game, I think, was the bench. When the South Africans started changing the bench, when was it Brand Juice or something like that? When he came on, he started going more at it. And yes, it was an interesting game, given that there was a lot of tries chopped up. I've never seen so many tries chopped up. Like, is there a record for the most try chopped up in a final? Could Because I feel like that game was fighting for that. But yeah,
Maybe the
there,
TMOs this weekend got paid by the number of tries that could get chalked off. Because I mean, one nearly sparked the second Falklands War, right after the Baby Boks. Yeah, right after the Baby Boks.
yeah,
Very true.
because there was a lot of tries. Like, but hey, we at the end of the day we still won. I think yeah, I'm gonna stick with saying that the bench kind of made the difference, even though that the other players that started were kind of making a difference. It's just that France was giving them a tough time. Like Lisa B said, we are not talking enough about how good France system actually is. I think we keep bragging about ours and forget that even though I think actually we're even behind because France has been having the system and has been there in place. We just kind of catched up and maybe we just had better talented players than them. That's why the results seemed like we have to praise them because we have the talent in each squad. I mean, each level of squad. But kudos to the Baby Box. It's good to go back to back. Hopefully next year we'll go back to back along with the senior team. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Imagine all achieving
Yeah,
back to back in the same year.
because if New Zealand have won it 4 times in a row, why can't we win it 5 times in a row? Come on, guys. We gotta shoot for the stars here. We gotta aim like the old lecturer in university said, aim high so that like if you achieve it, you achieve it. But if you don't achieve it, at least you did something great. So look, if we don't win it next year under certain circumstances, England are good. We've seen England are good. New Zealand are good. We're good. France are good. France have a slightly different system, but all rugby nations have a different way that they get to the same point of thing. And right now, the top 3 teams in the world are New Zealand, South Africa, and France, and they all have slightly different systems. But France and South Africa, like Thembigosi says, as it relates to depth, they are like producing a lot of players. So I think I'd be even more concerned about France if the World Cup coming up was in the Northern Hemisphere. But thankfully, it's in the Southern Hemisphere in Australia, so that might sort of negate them to a degree, but we'll see. France very much like if you can go from like Dupont to Luku, aka sort of like a tinier version of Jason Statham, like that's not a massive drop off. They're both excellent players. Before we move on to the Currie Cup. In fact, before we move on to the Mandela segment of the podcast, just want to remind everybody, like, subscribe, click the notification bell if you're enjoying it. We are also setting up once the URC gets going. We're setting up a individual podcast for first the URC franchise teams, Sharks, Stormers, Bulls, and Lions. We're very much the email at the bottom to get in contact with us is in the description. We're very much open to also more than just the franchises. If you're a big Griquas fan, which I have become over the years, considering how good they set it up. In fact, the Griquas and the Borland pod is going to have to like decide because what the name of the pod's going to be because they both have very similar sort of like chants because the chant for Borland is das net een land is Borland and then the chant for Griquas is das net een kwas is Griquas. So if you want to
And
set up a Griquas pod,
don't forget
yeah.
cheetahs, daar's net een staat, die Vrystaat.
Oh my
So
God, it's like it's all the same. So yeah, there's 14 franchises. Sorry, there's 14 unions in South Africa. But there's 3 URC franchises. I'm still holding out hope, and I have been told by numerous journalists that there's a chance that at some point we might just plug in some unions in Super Rugby, which someone might say, "Oh, that's too much rugby." And when I say some, I mean my significant other, because like, well, it's only like the weekend is only like 2 days. But I'm still holding out hope that we can get a couple of teams. I'd love to see Cheetahs, Pumas, Boland, Griquas in Super Rugby, and I'm sure the Super Rugby teams would actually appreciate having us back, and I think that would help a lot. So yeah, so the Sharks podcast is called Fear the Fin. The Stormers podcast is called what is it called again? I believe it's called These Are Actually My Real Front Teeth. I can make that joke. I'm allowed to make that joke. Oh, Bryce. Anyway, and in the what's the Bulls podcast called, Jean? Have you decided on a name yet?
We'll definitely get to another semi-final is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
production title.
What about the Kral?
Yeah, I think it's something like that. I forget. I forget. And then Timmy go see what's the
Agter
Lions
ons kom
podcast called?
ook in die kraal.
Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking the Lions Den.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Yeah,
Sounds
so
like
that's all
us.
a couple of working titles going on. But yeah, the I remember the Sharks podcast because it's actually now Fear the Fin. But yeah, and then yeah, hopefully get a few others. Yeah, awesome. So oh, yeah, and by the way, again, thanks to Culture Lab Kombucha for sponsoring the preview pods. And then coming up after this podcast, we are gonna be also previewing in a couple of weeks we'll be previewing the South African versus Argentina game. Argentina, hopefully they're a bit over the fact that they deservedly lost to Vamos España last week, and then they tried to fight people afterwards. So considering they lost that final and then they lost to England, like Jean mentioned earlier, I hope we put like 60 points on them because I was like, oh, I kind of feel like sorry for not sorry for like I don't want us to overly beat up on Wales. I don't like punching down, but Argentina, considering certain factors and their attitude towards competitiveness, I wouldn't mind us going to Buenos Aires and like putting like 70, 60 points on them. So that's the other year. No, it
Yeah, I
Saturday.
saw
Yeah, yeah, John.
I saw a pretty interesting take on it, and I find myself somewhat agreeing. Look, I think Argentina is the little brother of the Southern Hemisphere, and for us, the nations of the Rugby Championship, we feel a certain kinship to it. But the person said, look, if Argentina gets a lot of leeway because they're they're passionate, they're labeled as
Mm,
passionate. But if you put any other player behind the same actions, then it's questionable. Maybe the passionate label needs to go.
yeah,
Like,
because in the context of like rugby, they're the plucky underdog, and so I was always kind of rooting for them, and I like the Jaguares. And to be fair to the Argentinian fans watching, a lot of people have expressed on different social media platforms that they, as Argentinian citizens, don't necessarily hold the views of their government or some of the people endorsing them and that type of thing from other parts of the world and things like that. So to the Argentinian people and the fans, it's all love. But yeah, some of your like footballers got a little like out of hand at the end and that type of thing. I know it's like it's a big stage, but yeah, it's Mandela week in Argentina. We're gonna be 67 minutes of chill, bro. In as it relates to that, we'll start with Lisa B. Your thoughts on Mandela weekend and even maybe if you'd like to share like your thoughts on Nelson Mandela as a whole.
Yeah, I have to say it's one of my kind of favorite times of the year, really, just because yeah, service to one's community has always been quite a strong thing in my family, and that's really what Mandela signifies to me is leaders who are in service of their people and not just, um, as so often happens, putting themselves up on a pedestal just because they want the power or whatever they want. So that's the one thing that always, if I think about Mariba or during this time, is to be of service to others. And the second thing that always comes to my mind is how we can free ourselves and we can imprison ourselves, and how hate imprisons, even if you have the um, the capacity, or even if you're able to walk around freely in the world, if you have hate in your heart or mind, it really imprisons you. It keeps you from other people. And even if you are in prison for a whole bunch of years, you can be free by loving other people, by forgiving other people, by just, yeah, trying to meet people where they are. And that's really kind of the message that I always uh, think about during this time.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a good statesman, and we have so few of these lately. Madiba, sort of, Ireland are very lucky to have a very good stateswoman in Kathleen Connolly. Hopefully one day we'll also have a female president, that type of thing. Because I mean, a lot of our best I say this to friends and family often, a lot of our best people in South Africa are women. I think of Tubi Marcela, I think of uh, uh, Mampela Mampela, I think of like the sort of black women that were in the forefront of positivity within our society. And obviously, unfortunately, a lot of the sketchy politicians we have in South Africa and all over the world seem to be dudes. But then we also have like people following in the footsteps of Mandela. I will also say, I can say a lot of nice things about Nelson Mandela. His humility, his willingness to sort of like bring us together as a country, and anybody could have been sort of very bitter after being imprisoned for 27 years unjustly. And he didn't, he sort of put that aside for the greater good. But I think also I saw a video earlier today of Zohran Mamdani, the new New York mayor. He made a very good speech about. So I would encourage anybody to find that on different social media platforms. I think I saw it on Instagram. Jean, your thoughts on this auspicious weekend?
I think, yeah, I think, there's certainly a lot of controversial history regarding Madiba, and I think the one thing that people often forget is, um, and I'll quote Winston Churchill before I quote Madiba, is Winston Churchill famous for saying, "You can't reason with a tiger when your head is in its teeth." And while not everything Madiba might have done in his life is 100% the correct action to have taken, um, at some point, if your enemy understands nothing but violence, what will what will make them listen? Violence. If your enemy doesn't want to respond to words and they only understand violence, then you must respond with violence. But I think what Madiba most of all taught us is that victory, victory need not be um, bashful. Victory need not be uh, um, a triumphant demolishing of your opponent. Victory can be a reconciliation. Victory can be saying the road ahead is difficult and we will both sides need to let go of all things. And somewhere out there in a parallel universe, the presidents that followed him pushed that same agenda and managed to bring a wonderful country together and not enrich themselves at the sake of their people. And I think perhaps the most important thing that Madiba left behind is, and I quote this often to people who ask what do you do? And I said the most powerful weapon in the world is education. If you can educate yourself, if you can educate others, you have the most powerful weapon in the world. Um, so yeah, I think what he leaves behind for me is, while we must always seek peaceful routes, you must know which enemy you're fighting, um, and then educate yourself on all things, and you will always have a weapon, be it words or otherwise. But as long as you're educated on what matters, then you will be part of the conversation. You will have a say.
Yeah, I think people also forget pre-94 there was an armed struggle for liberation in South Africa. Unfortunately, in Koto Sizwe, a very positive part of our existence is now sort of been co-opted by a sort of political party, which I think is unnecessary. They could have chosen another name. But at the same time, like I think we're very fortunate in South Africa. We've had positive leaders, and we're lacking a bit of that of late. But I think that's sort of throughout the world. But we also have like earlier I was talking about female leaders within South Africa. I forgot to mention Firil Hafaji, and then in general leadership. we were incredibly fortunate, Demikosi, to also have Archbishop Desmond Tutu, the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu, alongside Madiba. So, like South Africa, we have our ups and downs, and there's lots that we need to work on. And I think that's reflective of us as individuals as well, myself included. Um, but in general, we are fortunate to have positive leadership to point to, especially historically.
I agree. I agree. Especially on my side for Mandela Day, I was actually at my company was hosting what is this, a game event for kids. So we went to some primary school, some local primary school. We actually invited a bunch of them to come there, where we were donating some things. And I would like to say, we actually arranged a couple of games, and for like the first 30 minutes, I was beating those kids. Like I was on fire until I got tired, until the old bones started aching. But yeah, so that's basically, I think Mandela's legacy is all about how we need to front up as a community and help build each other up. And that's basically what, instead of just saying it, I was trying to actually do it. And I was really good at it. I was giving speeches. I was like, guys, that was a long day. It was a long day. And I got really pissed when the kids started beating me in all the games. Didn't feel good. Didn't feel good at all.
I'm glad you had a. It's so fun to volunteer. I'm a big volunteer guy as well. You try and do as much as you can, and we all sort of like try and contribute positively to society. But yeah, you're completely right, Tim, because volunteer, especially with the young people, where you can sort of mentor people and make some sort of broader positive impact. It makes you feel good as well. So I would also encourage everybody next year to not no actually not next year. I know Mandela was like 67 minutes of volunteering or giving back on Saturday, but we need to bring this forward, almost like the Pay It Forward film with Joel Osment. We need to bring this forward throughout the year and try and as much as we can. But I know it's difficult also. We're all we've all got our individual struggles. Cost of living crisis is not a joke. I know people joke make light of that, but a lot of people are struggling under that. But we need to sort of be patient with one another, and when the taxi cuts you off tomorrow, just breathe. All right, guys. On a slightly lighter note, the Currie Cup Premier Division's back. I don't know who won the Currie Cup First Division. I'll check. So this is the four URC franchises plus the teams, the top four teams from the SA Cup. So it's Stormers. Keynote that the Stormers used to always be Western Province in this thing, but they've shifted to saying they're the Stormers 23. Weirdly, the Sharks are the Sharks 15. So it's Stormers, Sharks, Lions, and Bulls. And then joined by Lisa B's Boland, Mpumalanga Pumas, Griquas, and defending champions Griquas, as well as the Cheetahs, who look kind of much better. So before we get to the results, guys? After week one, my weird thoughts were things are going to be a little different because I don't think it's going to be like a mirror of last year. Look, it's early days. I'm surprised the Sharks won because we played a very much C/D team against a very cohesive Pumas team who played a lot. Another sort of interesting result was that the Cheetahs hosted the Lions. The Cheetahs were the more cohesive team, the Lions slightly rotated team. And the Lions have looked really good in this tournament throughout the last 2 years, making the final twice in Johannesburg, but unfortunately losing both. So that was interesting. And then Stormers were like a mixed team with a few veterans here and there. Well, I still didn't think would have had enough, even though they were playing at Cape Town Stadium. Although, again, I prefer they play the Currie Cup game maybe at Athlone or maybe down in Craven or something. Like bring the game to the community, or even City Park. I know City Park's not that big, but like bring the game to the community. But my understanding is that they kind of have to play every game at the City of Cape Town municipality because it costs so much to maintain Cape Town Stadium that the municipality is kind of like, hey, can we just get as many games as possible? So there's that aspect as well. But I'm really encouraged by week one. So we'll look at the first result from Friday, the game that kicked off. Sharks surprisingly defeated a very good Pumas team, a Pumas team with a player, Roland van der Merwe, playing at seven, who's off to Edinburgh, Glasgow. Um, Sango Kamlashe starting at outside center. Sango Kamlashe, who I've spoken to quite often of late, who's headed to the Bulls, so he'll be a player in your setup, Jean. And then Marvelous Mashimbini. Demikosi, you've interacted with Marvelous before, right?
Yeah, actually, he was in the same class as my little brother. So basically, him and Renzo are in the same age group.
Mm-hmm.
So they were basically in the same team up until like matric.
Oh, that's interesting. Did you get a chance
He was
to?
a
I
huge
know.
little child.
Is he from the same sort of neck of the woods as you? Tanzanian
Yeah,
type
they're all
thing?
from Tani. Yeah,
Oh,
they're
okay.
all from Tani.
And that's in the Limpopo province, correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I know we were all very busy this weekend. We might not have been able to watch the full games of all these four Currie Cup games. But we all like caught highlights here and there. Demikosi, your thoughts on the Sharks pulling off a surprise here?
I was actually pretty surprised. Um, I I thought that the franchise teams were gonna be like last year, where they're gonna just use it as like a train and run.
Mm,
But it shows that they're taking the tournament a little bit seriously with their wins, and especially I was actually surprised with the Stormers because I think they got a new coach, and it's the guy that was coaching the UCT, if I'm right. So
hmm.
he came in and started being the new coach. I was doubting him when I heard his pre-match speech. He said how he liked the idea that he was the underdogs against Requas, considering the fact that I know I'm going off your script of the game you
No,
also you
it's
asked
fine.
me about, but yeah. So
No,
I
no, no.
liked how he talked about how he liked the fact that they were underdogs and
Mm,
that gave them the chance to prove something, and he actually did. So kudos
yeah.
to him. But for the most part, I was actually okay. I'm disappointed that we lost.
Mm,
Very disappointed that we lost because for me that's a pretty strong team. That's basically on another day. That's a BT. That's the team we play in the URC.
mm,
So maybe Faf's return and may change the cheaters mindset, and with Blomik is there, maybe that's what elevated them. But yeah, really disappointed with the start. Hopefully, I really don't want to get to the finals again and lose.
mm.
So uh, I don't know, Lions, do something. Think about the pressure games and think about your mentality or something. But yeah, good start. The Let me just go back and answer your points about the Sharks. It was really
Mm.
surprising. I'm honestly surprised. I did not think you would win this game.
We're jumping around a little bit. It's completely fine. I know you doesn't like that on the rewind. He gets really pissed if people jump around. But hey, this is the African part. We doing hier vir die gees man. Kan nie so opgekramp wees nie. So yeah, Sharks. Cameron Dawson recently signed from the Cheetahs. He'll definitely get game time across the season. Kenneth van Vuren returned to us. I was always a big fan of his. I was quite sad when he left. So glad he's back so soon. Ngobese, 20 years old, won the Junior World Cup for with the Baby Boks last season, getting his this is his Sharks debut, senior Sharks debut. I'm very stoked at this player. Very encouraged by his potential. Johan Monson, honestly, I'm not that familiar with him. I'm not familiar with all the Sharks players. Sort of more on the fringes. Dion Slabbert, we signed him about 2 seasons ago from the Pumas, first on loan, but now he's a full-time Shark, so he did fantastic in this game. Willem van der Heever, a former sort of Marty standout, can play hooker and can play open side flank. Very sort of Dion Fourie slash Paul de Villiers type player. So now he had a very good game at flank, by the way. Jared Potgieter unfortunately got injured almost immediately the game. Another sort of Baby Bokish player. He didn't win the World Cup with the Baby Boks last year, but he was in the Baby Boks 2 seasons ago. So we hope he makes a full recovery. I was hoping to see him play quite a bit. Thomas Dyer can play eight and lock, but seems to be have shifted primarily to eight of late. Captaining the team, by the way. Ross Bradier signed from the Pumas last season, played 1 or 2 games for the Sharks throughout the URC slash EPCR season. Glad to see he's so it's an interesting mix of things. Tim Swill signed for us. Tim Swill, very much a journeyman player, made his name sort of at the Stormers, went to the Sharks, then played just about everywhere you can think, including recently coming to us playing in America at the Chicago Wolfhounds. The reports there were that he didn't quite play that well at fly off for them, but then he got shifted to fullback and he didn't light up there either, but he had a fantastic game here, and it's great to have him back. Often referred to as Timo Swill, but I think that's his actual name. So yeah, people were very pessimistic when they announced that they signed him, but he's proven his doubters wrong. Lyle Matthews, I don't know that much about him on the message boards. They're saying he was tearing it up for club rugby in the Sharks, sorry, in the KZN system. I believe he's 20 years old, but we'll learn more about him a bit as the season goes. This is basically the Currie Cup Premier Division is like where you unearth the raw diamonds and that type of thing. Speaking of raw diamonds, Janko Purchase, okay, went straight from high school rugby last season into the Currie Cup Premier Division first team last season. So I think he played 5 of the 7 games at inside center. Highly rated sort of inside center. Didn't quite make the Springbok Baby Boks section. He was eligible to play for the Baby Boks this year and hopefully next year. So I mean that's a competitive team. So very very good players didn't even make it on the plane to Georgia. Minus Potgieter, veteran, struggled injuries of late. Mostly plays inside center of late, but played decently good at center. Christy Grobler, like in the Currie Cup Premier Division, we'll see a lot of players who played throughout the season for the 7 setup play in the Currie Cup Premier Division because this is sort of like an open time in their calendar where they have time to play 15s rugby. So he had a solid game, and then Okonta, I saw on Sango Kamlashes on Pike Sobatle's Instagram. He was picking up his fellow teammate. Why? Because he had won Varsity Cup Young Player of the Season. So shout out to him. And on the bench, we recently signed Jacques Toy. Jacques Marais is quite young. Lee Marvin Mazibuka had a bit of a better game. He's been inconsistent since we signed him, but we hope he does a bit better. And then very young. These are all incredibly. And then Keanu Everson, also another Baby Bok World Cup winner from last season. In general, this is like the cream of the crop from the Sharks under 16, under 18 team. So encouraging victory considering the quality on and the fact that it was in Mbombela. Like I said, JJ Skeppers was on loan at lock at the Sharks, so he's very familiar with the Sharks. We've got when I saw this name, I was very surprised. Jordan McLaughlin, definitely he's got some Irish heritage. So but when I looked him up, I don't watch a lot of Varsity Cup and Varsity Shield, but he's quite a player that made his name in that division. And obviously Willie Engelbrecht, veteran player. Levaldo Flores had a good game. Another guy who made his name in varsity rugby. And yeah, Vian van Niekerk signed from the Bulls a few seasons ago, I think 2 seasons ago. So the reality though is that, and then Daniel Visagie, veteran fly off. The reality is that this is round about the team that did really well and went on to win the SA Cup. So for the Sharks sort of C/B and sort of youth team to go to Mpumalanga and win, I'm very impressed and very happy, and hopefully that type of momentum goes throughout maybe we even make the playoffs this year. But one swallow doesn't make a summer, so we'll keep the powder dry. Griquas versus Stormers. Stormers, interesting team, veterans, Ole Kebble. They signed a few players who recently played for the Sharks. Grobler, also a Munster player, and then very very veteran uh, sort of scrub off, fly off combo there. Jean, did you get a chance to watch any of the Currie Cup this weekend?
Unfortunately not. My spare time was the time not taken up by rugby. My spouse just said, "No, you have chosen to marry me. You need to give me attention and time as well." So you did not, in fact, marry rugby. I must have misread the contract somewhere and gotten confused.
So
Um,
rugby is not your wife, Jean, it's your mistress.
we'll discuss that on the next episode.
Yeah, they to get. I like the cliffhangers to get people to sort of like tune in a bit later. Lisa B, you informed me that you watched the second half of this game. Um, Thoughts on another surprising victory? I mean, Griquas won the Currie Cup last season, and they ran out quite close to the exact team that beat the Lions in the final last year.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting. This Currie Cup, like you said, is going to be really interesting because of a few things. But what I would like to highlight is the new SA Under 23 tournament that started this year. So this is where, for those who don't know, the Sharks, the Stormers, the Lions, and the Bulls, uh, their under 23 teams play against each other. And so it's really kind of the idea of bridging once again the gap between kind of the academy stuff and the URC, and to build depth in the URC, I think more with an eye towards the European Cups. But I was interested to, well, I am interested to see how that is going to feed into this Currie Cup, just because of those under 23 players having had time with their coaches and with each other in a tournament setting. So it's interesting to see which teams are playing their, like, the bulk of their under 23 team. What mix are they having with more experienced teams, or experienced players, sorry, and kind of how each of the franchise is going to manage that. And then on the other side, the Griquas, the Cheetahs, and the Pumas did play against Black Lion, Romania A, and then a team from Portugal in the Toyota Challenge. And that also gave them, that extra tournament kind of feel, and the teams playing together, getting some cohesion, and so it's like these two tournaments, and now they're kind of meeting all in the Currie Cup. And so for me, this is really interesting to see that, like you said, the Griquas playing this really experienced, really settled, well-coached team, and the Stormers coming in with some really nice kind of youth players. Of course, with the older guys being there to steer the ship. Um, and I have to say, for most of the game, well, so like you said, I watched the second half. Um, and the first half, the Griquas were far in front, if I remember correctly. And it's only really in the second half where the Stormers came back. Um, so it and it really was in that last, I think it was like a last 2 minutes, in the last 2 minutes or so, that Stormers got the winning try. So it was very close, but very interesting that Stormers, who last year did so badly and who really didn't look like they cared about the Currie Cup a lot, are now throwing a lot of I think, effort into this because they see the value in it.
It's very interesting because they played a much more youthful team last year, but this is kind of Stormers B team-ish C. It's more BC, and they did some
Yeah.
interesting recruiting. Now that I look at it, because I mean even Kyle Smith's not playing. Kyle Smith, who looked really good at fly off. Young, also former Baby Bok. But if I quickly look through the Ollie Kebble, Scottish international. Vernon Paulo, star for Cheetahs last season. So that's an excellent pickup for them. They did look a little thin at hooker. Grobler, like I said earlier, played for very, very experienced player, played for the Bulls, played for Munster, played for the Sharks. And then also Kike Marabe. He's got lots of URC experience. Divan Fuller is an underrated player. Blaba, Wandile Blaba would have gotten more game time this season if he hadn't gotten injured. Looked really good at open side, played well. I think Ongra is a veteran. Jean-Luc Dupree is a veteran. There's sort of like more fringy players that didn't quite make the team because of the depth. Cornell Smith is an interesting selection. I think they've signed a lot of guys on one-year contracts because Cornell Smith, or formerly of the Bulls, uh, young Josh Pillay. So it's a better mix, and then young Josh Pillay is like a very highly thought of veteran, sorry, not veteran, young player, one to look out for. And then Junior Cupido, another guy who won the the World Cup with the Baby Boks last season, then went straight into the sevens team. This guy's got pace for days, and he did play a lot of Currie Cup last season. Maybe didn't, because of how poorly the team was playing, didn't necessarily have the platform to shine per se. And then Skara and Tabeni, again, I thought you were retired, Skara, but obviously they called him in to just play a bit. Henko van Wyk is a veteran player. They got a young lock in Kuzuayo. We got to ask, Badile's surname is also Kuzuayo. So Badile, if you're watching this, let us know. No, don't let us know in the WhatsApp group. Let us know in the chat here, in the comments below, if this is actually family of yours. And then the rest of the team, Tian Fourie left the Sharks, but he was on loan at Southwestern District Eagles with Erika Meyer in George during the SA Cup season. Malchus is another sort of young player in the Stormers setup. So yeah, I think you make a good point, because we were playing URC. Franchises were playing URC, but then they had the under 23 tournament, which you could have 6 over 23 players in the team, but I think only 4 on the pitch at the same time, or at least you could only start with 4 at one point, whilst the other teams, other 10 unions were playing SA Cup, and then some of them went into that Toyota Challenge. So I think the South African rugby landscape, it evolves every year. So it's going to make it a little different. But that having been said, this is a stack request team. Saka Makata, who left Stormers last season, or Western Province last season, was playing Currie Cup for them last season, changes sides. And Makata, I know him more as a wing, and he played really well inside center. Zwelendaba, I've been singing this guy's praises, excellent at inside center. Playing here at outside center, interesting, instead of Zane Bester, which is interesting. Gershon Ware, who's like made a massive name for himself since last year's Currie Cup. In fact, since the previous Currie Cup when he played for Griffins. Since then, he's played for Griffins. Then he was alone at the Sharks. Then he back at was winning the Currie Cup. Then he went to Sale Sharks. No, he was in Stormers training, and then he went to Sale Sharks. Dylan Maat's been signed by the Bulls. He'll be running out for Jean's team next season. Eddie Davids was like the star loose head prop for Thembinkosi's Lions team in the URC. And then Damien Marcus, blue chip prospect, decided to sign with Griquas to get more game time instead of sort of like with this guy is going to come back to the Stormers. It's just he's basically just on loan at Griquas. And then Cameron Hofke, also another very good player. Surprised he didn't actually get off the bench. So exciting. Like, I thought that this Currie Cup would go the same as last season, but it's not. It's not. In its early days, I mean, like, Bulls started like a house on fire in the first 2 games of last season's Currie Cup, and they didn't make the final. I thought it was going to be a Bulls Lions final, but yeah, let's not count chickens. But still, very encouraging signs. And speaking of encouraging signs, Thembinkosi did talk about the Golden Lions a bit earlier, but let's just quickly talk about the Cheetahs, who were freaking out that if they didn't make the playoffs in the SA Cup, that they would have to go into financial administration. And thankfully they did. And they've done some interesting recruitment, not just Faf de Klerk, Jaco van der Walt from the Bulls, Zane Duplessis from Zander Duplessis from the Lions, but mostly, I mean, like Prince Kambende, he's always been there, but it's mostly the settle team, and they put in a honest to God, like, solid performance. And this is also a moment to actually tell the viewership and the listeners, we've actually also secured a Cheetahs player that will be joining us on the pod for the our coverage of the Springboks versus Argentina. So I won't say which player it is, but look forward to that. He might be blonde and he might have long hair, or not. But yeah, we'll keep it under wraps for now. But at the same time, I think now that I look at the Lions team, Thembinkosi is actually right. This is a solid Lions team. I would have thought, yes, Cheetahs are good, but maybe once the Baby Boks get placed into this Lions team, things might go a little better for them. Because they do have a lot of Baby Boks. Lisa B, your Boland Cavaliers defeated a very good Bulls team. If you look at the Bulls starting 15, at least, they look like if we look at the Bulls team, they look like they put all the youngsters on the bench. I don't know any of these Oaks. No offense, guys. I'm sure you're really good players. I'm sure you all dominated in high school, but I don't know who you are. But the match 15 is very, very good. The amount of URC caps in this match 15 needs to be, and you still went on and won.
Yeah, can I just say I'm really glad no one got murdered on the pitch. This was this was a literal muddy slugfest in more ways than one. But you're right. It's a really good team. What was disappointing was that there was just no cohesion at all. Um, and I really rate Nabakaba. He's an excellent player. He was the captain for this game. Uh, he- I don't know if it was him or the coaching, but there was just, like I said, no cohesion. And Mdanda, the number three prop, I don't know what we did to him, but he was out to murder some Cavaliers for some reason. And it was just very scrappy, lots of off the ball stuff and pulling, and basically the end almost kind of looked like the end of the England Argentina game. Um, and I don't know quite what the TMO was doing. He just went, oh, so Crystal September pulled the Bulls player, and that's all that happened. That's not all that happened. That was the first thing that happened. I will concede that. But yeah, it was a bit bizarre from that side. Um, but yeah, so sorry, Jean, I am being a bit negative about the Bulls, but I really was shocked to see, uh, the their lineouts weren't functioning at all, which was also, and that just being said, it was rainy. Boland's pitch when it rains is not a fun place to be. It is very muddy. It is very like it does kind of pull at your feet, I think, a lot. But I think the Bulls team also looked like they were emotionally a bit kind of tiring themselves out. And very strangely, just before the end of the first half, they were on our try line. We were on a team warning, and they went for the kick. And it's also interesting if you go back and watch all the mauls, because that was a whole nother battle with the new maul laws and everything. And they didn't go for the maul, they went for the kick for the 3 points right before halftime, which looking back, I was surprised back then, and looking back at it now, very much the wrong decision too. Um, on the Boland side, very cool to see. Unfortunately, I have to say, James Tedder got hurt in the first like 7 minutes. Um, and I'm really worried about him. It looked like he really hurt his knee. He is a very, very important part of our attack and really our whole game. So I'm really hoping that he isn't out for the season. Um, but yeah, Jaden Bantham took over the kicking, and I was really happy for him because he's improved a lot since SA Cup. And then Chris Smith kind of with Jaden Bantam took over James Tedder's role together, and just Chris Smith is just jack of all trades. Really great to have a player like him that can kind of stand in like that. And otherwise, yeah, I'm happy we won. I think it's great. I can't wait to see the Stormers next week. And a last point on your question about the first division. They play their semi-finals on the weekend, and it will be SVD and Falke in the final on the 24th.
Interesting. Southwestern District versus Falca. Will it be in George?
It will be.
Oh, interesting. Annika Meyer taking his team. Well, actually, I'll try and keep an eye on that and see like which teams actually play. So I think they're doing positive things there. Southwestern District Eagles. Um, Lisa B, we haven't had you on in a while, so we'll round things off before we get to the senior men's Springbok schedule with the women's Springbok schedule. I'm just getting it up right now. There's a couple of fantastic games, and hopefully I get to see you in person at Athlone Stadium for the two-match series. Um, I'd love to go to both games, but did I mention the cost of living crisis? Um, people
Girls,
are like, oh,
the women's games are so much cheaper. It's fine. You can, as
oh,
long as you can pay for petrol, you're good.
mm, it's tight. So yeah, I'm bringing the schedule up now if I can type fast enough. But do you know who our next opponent is?
Yeah, so we have got in August, it's been uh I think it was announced a week ago. So we're actually going to Fiji
Mm,
to play 2 games against the Fijiana. Very, very exciting. Also because, of course, after that we're going to play the Black Ferns in the greatest rivalry at Soccer City. Um, and I think the Fijiana are really good kind of practice. Firstly, because playing in Fiji is not easy. And number two, because they're a good kind of substitute for playing. They have a lot of the same threats. So they also have the really fast runners, really great attack. So it will be a good bridge for us before we play the Black Ferns. So really excited about that. Then after that, yes. After that, we've got oh, what you don't have here
mhm.
is we're also going to Europe for the WXV.
Oh yeah.
So there's 3 away games in Europe. Confirmed is Italy and Wales or Camry.
Hmm.
And then I believe we're also going to play Spain, but that
Hmm.
has not been confirmed as yet, but I'm pretty sure it will happen. And then we come back and play the 2 Iron games. So those are like the 5 games that will form part of our WXV. So the 2 home games and the 3 away games.
First time I'm looking at this website from SA Rugby. I'm really liking these profiles of
It's
our
an
players.
upgrade.
Yeah,
It's a major
yeah.
upgrade, I
Really
can
get
tell
to
you.
put a face to
But
the
it works
name.
horribly.
Uh, DeAndre Dolph doesn't look happy at all, Demikosi. Thoughts? Just, just very serious.
Maybe it was a bad camera day, but it looks nice though. But navigating this website is some needs some sort of some IT degree. If I was to ask you right now, go to their fixtures list, you will take a while to go and find that.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to find that, Demikosi. You're
Go to the
completely
match
correct.
center,
Oh,
Go
there
to
we
the
go.
match
You're gonna,
center.
yeah, go match center. There we go.
then
And
go
then
and filter by
filter. Uh-huh.
team. No, no, you want to do
By
team.
team. Yeah, I want
Go
to get
go to
team.
team. If you do that, you're
Here we
not gonna
go.
find what you're looking for.
Obviously, Tembe and Kosi and I have done this many
Before.
times.
Yeah. So right now, upcoming games, they've only got
Hmm,
the 2 Fiji games and then the New Zealand games. So they haven't even
yeah,
added the games that we've spoken about as well. Because I saw something else about WXV as well. Like what's the name isn't Super I think Super Sport will actually be this is fantastic. Uh Kaylon always
content.
jokes about this is fantastic podcast content. It's like oh
Yeah,
yeah, and
and
then like we
well,
said, and recording about it, our thoughts and prayers go to you from all of us.
yeah, definitely. And while you're getting that, I can also say there are rumors of a possible um, England A coming to South Africa
Hmm.
and playing possibly somewhere in the Boerland. But
Hmm.
this is all just like stuff that I've heard on podcasts and kind of mentions. So nothing confirmed, but it might be. And that would
Okay,
also be really cool.
awesome.
Mm.
Uh Guys, thank you to all of you. Thank you for everybody for supporting us for these 50 episodes. Yeah. Um, from myself, Demi Corsi, Lisa B, and John. For the 50th time, in Rasi, we trust. Good night.